Hello, everybody. Welcome to 3MT. My name is Ken Goodson. I'm the Vice Provost for Graduate Education and Postdoctoral Affairs. And this is an amazing event. Those of you who were in attendance last year will remember it as a spectacular celebration of doctoral thesis work. So, thanks everyone for turning out. I want to say a quick thank you to our volunteers who helped us get things set up and helped you get to your seat on time. Let's have a round of applause. Thank you. So this is only our second competition, and for the first time, we are doing it as part of Graduate Student Appreciation Week. So this is Stanford's first G-Saw, as we call it. And it's been filled with all sorts of fun events, donuts with the deans in H&S this morning, the School of Engineering, they had all sorts of great food and drinks, and there's been actually a student health event run by Glow where I got to wrench bikes and repair bicycles for everyone who came. It was really, it's been a lot of fun. And so the university has really stood up and partnered with VPGE in so many ways to make this a great week. So I want to thank all of those of you who've helped to make this week so great for our graduate students. We're really honoring the incredible contribution they make to our campus community. We have so many graduate students, and they're such a big part of our reputation and the culture we have. And now on to the big event. So let me introduce the concept for those of you who are hearing about it for the first time. So the 3-minute thesis competition challenges PhD students to distill their scholarly work to 3 minutes or less for a lay audience. I think we can all agree that it is super important that graduate students be able to do this, communicate the research to everybody in the country and in the world. And it's a privilege and honor to bring the whole campus community together today to celebrate doctoral research. So here are the rules. Each finalist has a 3-minute limit. Those who exceed the 3-minute limit will be disqualified. The timer starts when the finalists say their first word. Presentations must be spoken, no poems, raps, or songs. What's up there? Each finalist has also designed a single static visual element that you'll see on the screen to complement their entry. No animations and no additional electronic media. There are also no props or costumes. It's just the student and the 3-minute platform. Finally, and this is particularly fun, as each finalist takes the stage, they will be accompanied by walk-on music. Each finalist selected their own song to walk on stage with. This is our own reality TV here at Stanford University. So, how will we and our finalists know how much time they have? We are honored to have with us Ken Shu. Ken, please stand. Ken is the Assistant Vice Provost and Director of the Graduate Life Office, which does so many amazing things for our students. So in addition to starting the timer, Ken will hold up a sign when 30 seconds remain, and a second sign when 10 seconds remain. And then when the time is up, you will see him hold up a red sign. Ken is such a nice guy. I know he has a hard time being the taskmaster here, but you're going to do a great job. Okay, about the judges, we are absolutely delighted to welcome our distinguished panel of judges from the Stanford community. I would be delighted if you would stand as I introduce you. So Stacy Bent. Stacy is Professor of Chemical Engineering and Energy Science and Engineering, and the former Vice Provost of Graduate Education. She's my predecessor in this job. She did amazing work for 5 years, really important contributions, and was actually running the office when the idea to have 3MT started. And so in many ways, this is her brainchild along with Liz Silva here. Lloyd Minor. Lloyd is the Carl and Elizabeth Naumann Dean of the School of Medicine and Vice President for Medical Affairs. Secretary Condoleezza Rice. Professor Rice is joining the panel for the second time this year. We're delighted to have you. She is the Tad and Diane Taub Director of the Hoover Institution. Blakey Vermeulen. Blakey is the Senior Associate Dean for Humanities and Arts and Albert Gerard Professor in Literature. Howard Wolf. Howard is the Vice President for Alumni Affairs and President of the Stanford Alumni Association, and we're delighted to have him with us in his final year of service to the university in that role. The judges will be evaluating our presenters on the content of their presentations, as well as the presenter's ability to engage and communicate with the audience. You're supposed to understand, basically, even if it's not your field of study. In addition to the awards for first, second, and third place, as selected by our judges, there will also be a People's Choice Award that you will get to vote on, and you'll learn more about that later. So be sure to take your own notes. The winner will receive $5,000. Second prize is $3,000. Third prize is $1,000, and the People's Choice Award is $500. Before I turn it over to our MC for the event, I have one last rule for all of us. We hope that you will make all the noise in the world between finalists. You can hoot and holler and yell and scream and cheer, and I think they'll love being acknowledged in that way. On the other hand, when they are speaking, when they are in their 3 minutes, I want to hear a pin drop. Actually, last year it was amazing, the silence. So when they start their speech to when they finish, I want you to silence your cell phones, take care of that now, and be incredibly respectful and quiet. All right. Without further ado, I'm honored to introduce John Levin, Stanford's 13th president and our MC for this evening. John.
All right, it's great to see so many people here, and really looking forward to this event. As things go on, I have a few more people to thank, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how this whole process worked and where the finalists came from, how they were selected. But we've got 10 presentations, and so we are just going to get right into it. So we're going to start with our first presentation of the event, and this is, I want you to give a round of applause for Orisa Coombs, PhD candidate in mechanical engineering, and her presentation is titled Money Down the Toilet, Recovering Valuable Fertilizer from Urine. Okay. That's all you got. Some fertilizer, tears and sunshine.
Would you flush money down the toilet? What if I told you that you do every time you use the bathroom in the form of the nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus contained in your urine? This year, we will flush $14 billion of these nutrients straight down the drain. These are the building blocks that plants need to grow and the key ingredients of fertilizers. What if every toilet could become a miniature fertilizer factory? To feed the world, we rely on synthetic fertilizers produced by the Haber-Bosch process. Annually, Haber-Bosch facilities use 12 quintillion joules of energy. That's enough to power all of New York City for 65 years. And most of this energy comes from fossil fuels, making fertilizer production one of the top 5 most carbon-intensive industries. But these factories are vital to our food system. They're directly responsible for feeding half the world's population, including every person in this room. Unfortunately, not everyone has equal access to the fertilizers. Raise your hand if you've ever eaten an avocado. Meet your avocado farmer, Rufino. He lives in San Juan, a small town in the mountains of central Mexico. He says, Las plantas hablan, the plants talk, telling him when they need more water or fertilizers. However, like so many crops worldwide, the fertilizers his plants crave is imported and becomes unobtainable when prices soar due to tariffs and geopolitics. San Juan is a town with no treated water and no sewer system, so Rufino and his neighbors share an outhouse-style latrine. Transforming this toilet into a miniature fertilizer factory does more than make plant food. It can mean a stable livelihood, better sanitation. It's the opportunity to create wealth from what was formerly waste. Now, we know that the sun helps Rufino's avocados to grow, but in my research, we also use it to make fertilizers. In urine, the prized nutrients exist as ions, which are an electronically charged form. Like pulling crops from soil, solar electricity can pull the ions from urine, recovering them as a high purity and carbon-free fertilizer product. To make the most of limited resources, I have designed a method that adapts to the rise and set of the sun to maximize fertilizer production when the sun shines the brightest. But if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. My research shows that the system can produce a stable and affordable fertilizer price for farmers like Rufino, while also generating profit that can be used to fund improved sanitation for the town. In partnership with local leaders in San Juan, we are deploying these mini factories to distribute real fertilizers and working to expand globally so we can stop flushing resources down the toilet and start growing a future we can hold on to. Thank you.
Thank you, Orisa. Okay, this whole event is going to be an amazing celebration of our graduate students and their scholarship. And this process of participating in the event has also been a professional journey for all of them. Just actually to become a finalist is quite an honor, and all 10 should be tremendously proud of what they've done. They were chosen from dozens of submissions that came in from all across the university. And I think what you're going to see as the event goes on is the breadth of the research that goes on around the university is extraordinary, and it's going to be reflected in the work of these PhD candidates. Okay, with that, I'm going to bring in our second finalist. Our second finalist is David Dumas. He is a PhD candidate in chemistry, and his presentation is titled Plastics as They Should Be. With that, let's welcome David.
There's a place in your heart, and I know that it is love. And this place is much brighter than tomorrow. And if you...
I hate paper straws. And I know I may anger some of the environmentalists in the audience by saying this, but it's true. I hate paper straws. I use 2 paper towels to dry my hands, and sometimes even I don't know what trash goes in what bin. But why does that feel so hard to admit? Because we all know sustainability is important, but it's also hard to give up the day-to-day convenience of single-use materials, like conventional plastic. Unfortunately, this leads to a linear economic model where we make, use, and discard plastic, pushing this waste accumulation problem onto future generations. Truth is, we need plastics with circularity and sustainability in their design, not included as an afterthought. However, many of you have seen these green alternatives, and when it comes to performance, they're often unsatisfactory, to say the least. I mean, have you ever tried cutting a piece of meat with a compostable knife? Or digging into a salad with a compostable fork? Oftentimes, they break. In fact, if you've ever used a compostable utensil, odds are it's made from polylactic acid, or PLA. My research goal is simple: make sustainable plastics more competitive. To this end, we've developed what we call the molecular spring, which can be synthesized from a chemical platform sourced from inedible biomass, like wood chips or bark. This way, we bypass our vital food supply. With the molecular spring, I can enhance existing materials like PLA or create altogether new ones. Incorporate a small amount of this spring into brittle PLA, and you've got a tough, sustainable plastic, perfect for making some unbreakable utensils. But in a world of convenience, we don't just need utensils. We need grocery bags, we need adhesive glues, we need water bottles, and of course, I want straws. But to make those, it currently takes 4 different kinds of plastic. What if I could do it with just 1? With the molecular spring, I can not only reinforce PLA, but I can adapt plastics made entirely from this spring to a wide variety of uses. With this new bioplastic we call POTO, I can make the bags or adhesives you need and the straws I so desperately want. So imagine it, a world of guilt-free, convenient plastic. Because why settle for plastics as they are when you can look forward to plastics as they should be? Thank you.
Thank you, David. So the finalists have been preparing for months, and you can tell they submitted initial videos back in January, and then they have been practicing and rehearsing and getting their presentations ready since then. They've been meeting with coaches from the oral communication program and the technical communications program, and working with them on all the run-throughs. And you can see it. It's amazing. We're now going to go to our third finalist, Colette Benko. Colette is a PhD candidate in developmental biology, and her presentation is titled "Selfies: Understanding How Cells." How did everyone get so creative with their dissertation titles these days? Selfies: Understanding How Cells Communicate with the Immune System. Come on up, Colette.
The other way, but we can try to understand the New York Times are made on man. Further away, they stay.
Who here has posted a photo on social media? Okay, quite a few of us. Well, you may be surprised to know that just like us, our cells like to take selfies. And they post these selfie updates on their form of social media I like to call the immunogram. A special type of immune cell then scrolls through the immunogram looking for when your everyday cell goes from posting happy and healthy updates to those indicating it may be infected with a virus or even becoming cancerous. As you may have guessed, cells take selfies differently than us. Instead of posing in front of a camera, cells display peptides, which are small pieces of protein on their surface. An immune cell, known as a CD8 positive T cell, can recognize these peptides and sound the alarm when something doesn't look right. For a long time, it was assumed that these peptides were randomly selected from proteins in the cell. However, that doesn't seem to be the case. We think cells behave a bit more like us on social media, carefully curating which photos or peptides to post, not just random pictures from their camera roll. And like a social media influencer that's planning in advance what photos to take, we think this curation may be happening before the protein is even made. In my research, we're trying to understand the rules of this curation and what factors a cell uses to decide what proteins to post. To do this, we look for proteins that, despite being less abundant, are displayed really well on the immunogram. We then examine what are the similarities between these proteins, specifically in the instructions for making them. Using public data, we've found that certain similarities may have a substantial impact on peptide display. This is the biology inside of every single one of us. It's sitting, it's standing in this room. Every day, your cells are developing mutations, getting infected with viruses, and this communication between cells and the immune system helps us stay alive. When things on the immunogram go wrong, cancer and viruses go undetected, and immune cells can target healthy cells by accident, causing autoimmune diseases. By better understanding why certain proteins are posted, we will better understand these diseases. More importantly, we can use this to develop more effective immunotherapeutics and help our cells post better updates. So next time you're scrolling through social media, just remember that your immune cells are doom scrolling right there with you, and we study how their content is curated. Thank you.
Our fourth finalist, who is Tom Rutter, a PhD candidate in economics, and his presentation is titled Mapping Social Networks at Scale. Welcome, Tom.
No one told you life was gonna be this way.
The major turning point of my life was not an especially dramatic moment. I was 19 and at university, so I rolled out of bed just after midday to grab lunch with my friend Will. I didn't have any plans for the summer, but Will knew a student who had done a summer research fellowship at Caltech. The next day, I applied to that fellowship. That fellowship led to my first paper, and now I'm still here in California doing research. Our friends don't just provide us with information. They can refer us to jobs, they shape our values and behaviors, and they give us many of the moments that make life worth living. My research is all about where we make friends and how they matter. I want you to imagine two kids, both growing up to low-income families in the UK, but with different social networks. How different would you expect their lives to be? We use Facebook data on over 6 billion friendships to find out. In the UK, low-income individuals have 3 times fewer high-income friends than high-income individuals do. But the blue areas of this map, including Cambridge, where I met Will, are areas where low-income kids growing up have more cross-income friendships than you would expect. The chart shows what this means for their lives. We analyzed hundreds of millions of UK tax returns to show that low-income kids growing up in areas with more cross-income friendships earn about 30% more as adults, compared to similar kids who grew up in areas where most of their friends look just like them. To put that 30% number in context, in the UK, the difference in earnings between white and black workers is about 6%. And that's still a big disparity. Furthermore, these friendships aren't just important for earnings. We ran a massive survey and found that low-income individuals with more cross-income friendships are more satisfied with their lives, they feel more connected to society, and they report higher levels of social support and trust. Finally, these friendships are more likely to form in places just like this, universities, where I met Will. That lunch was still a lucky break, but I understand now that the context I was in made it far more likely that I would befriend someone who could really change my life. Many of you have your own version of Will. The goal of my research is for every kid to have the chance to meet theirs. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And I hope you all caught the clever choice of entering music there with the Friends theme and the Friends. And keep your eye out, see if there are a few more of those coming. There may be. Okay, so as I mentioned, the way this whole competition went, the finalists started by submitting the video submission. They were reviewed by 3 people and considered against the criteria that Ken shared at the beginning, and that's what got us down to the 10. And we had 29 reviewers from across the university, and I just want to acknowledge them. That might be a slide, and if you're here as one of the reviewers, I would love you to stand up so we could thank you. Fantastic. So thank you to our reviewers. Okay, now our 5th finalist is Ibukun Ajifolokun, who's a PhD candidate in materials science and engineering, and her presentation is titled No Antigen Left Behind: How Injectable Hydrogels Improve Combination Vaccine Delivery. Welcome up, Ibukun.
Hit me with your best shot.
Why don't you hit me with your best shot?
What if I told you our best shot at global vaccine coverage wasn't more shots, but a better one? In the US, a child needs about 24 shots before they start school, and that number will increase. Wouldn't it be better if we could combine multiple diseases into a single shot? Well, that's the idea behind combination vaccines, like MMR, the vaccine for measles, mumps, and rubella. They've been incredibly effective, saving time and expanding access to care. Without them, that 24 number would be closer to like 40 shots. Ow! Needles. But there's a catch. Most combination vaccines only work when the targets are very similar. Combining very different diseases is still a hurdle. This is because when you combine multiple vaccine components or antigens, the body doesn't always treat them equally. An antigen is the part of the disease your body learns to recognize. Some antigens are loud, getting all the attention of the immune system, while others are a little quieter and are easier to ignore. So this means instead of getting protection against multiple diseases, you might only get protection against one. This is called antigen competition, and it's a big barrier to better vaccines. So how do we make sure that no antigen is left behind? In my lab, we're developing a better shot using injectable hydrogels. A hydrogel is a soft water-filled material, like Jell-O. When injected, it forms a small solid under your skin that slowly releases the vaccine over time. We tested this material by vaccinating mice with 2 unrelated antigens, then measuring the immune response. We saw in traditional liquid delivery, one antigen dominated, sometimes completely suppressing the other. But in our gel, we see strong, balanced responses to both, fixing the competition. It works because the immune system is a lot like a student. If everything's presented at once, it's like cramming before an exam. You remember some things, but not all. Traditional vaccines are like this. In contrast, our gel spreads the learning out over time, like a good study plan, giving the immune system a chance to remember everything. This is great news because it means we don't have to compromise anymore. It means a mother from a rural village doesn't have to choose between multiple clinic visits to vaccinate her child or going to work and feeding her family. It means fewer missed vaccinations and more lives saved. Because a fair immune response is how we protect everyone so that no antigen is left behind, and more importantly, no child is left unvaccinated. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibukun. There were many, many other presentations and submissions that you are not getting to see today. And of those, 5 were selected for honorable mention. So I want to take a moment just to acknowledge the 5 presentations here that were honorable mentions in the competition. Congratulations to all of the honorable mentions. Okay, our 6th finalist is AJ Phillips, PhD candidate in electrical engineering, and his presentation is titled Teaching Neural Implants to Speak the Brain's Language.
It's electric.
Take a few seconds to picture someone you love giving you a big smile. For millions of people around the world who are losing their vision, moments like that are fading away. Neural implants offer a new hope for restoring those moments, but today they still send signals to the brain in a coarse and unnatural way. Imagine trying to play the piano while wearing boxing gloves. You'll hit some keys, but not always the right ones, and not at the right times. And what comes out might sound more like noise than music. That's how we interact with the brain today. You see, the brain communicates through precise patterns of electrical activity across many neurons at once, timed down to the millisecond. But electrical stimulation activates the brain imprecisely. This makes complex brain function, like seeing your loved one smile, very difficult to restore. If we want neurotechnologies that can truly restore lost function, We need to get those brain patterns right. So my thesis asks a fundamental question. Can electrical stimulation actually reproduce the brain's natural signals? To answer this question, I turn to the retina, one of the most well-studied circuits in the brain. The retina's job is to convert light entering your eye into the precise patterns of neural activity that represent what you see. To try to reproduce those very patterns, we use a tiny grid of electrodes nestled against the retina that can listen to its activity and talk back to it with electrical stimulation. Now, if you use the one-way stimulation strategy that neural implants use today, you'll activate the wrong neurons at the wrong times, just like playing that piano with boxing gloves. The result is a jumbled mess of blobs and streaks of light. Unfortunately, nothing like your loved one's smile, and a lot more like your implant just majored in abstract art. Instead, to activate the right neurons at the right times, we use a two-way strategy. First, we carefully observe how our electrical stimulation affects each individual neuron. Then we use that information to optimize our stimulation. In other words, we're taking off those boxing gloves and starting to play the piano with our fingertips. Using this new approach, we have shown for the very first time that a neural implant can reproduce the brain's natural signals in many neurons at once. This means that we can move beyond crude flashes of light toward a more natural kind of vision built from the brain's own signals. And for someone who has already lost their vision, that could one day mean the opportunity to see their loved one's big smile once again. That's precision for the smiles that matter. Thank you.
All right, thank you, AJ. I just want to note that at Stanford we have over 5,000 PhD students. It's kind of amazing to think of all the research that's going on with 5,000 graduate students doing projects like this. It's spectacular. I have one more group that I want to thank before we bring the next person up, which is that as the finalists were working to get things ready, they worked in small groups to fine-tune their scripts and to get feedback on the slides, and there was a team that worked with them. And this is the presentation team that worked with the finalists. So if any of you are here, I'd love for you to stand up and we can give you a round of applause. All right, you did a fantastic job. Our seventh finalist is Katie van Assendelft, a PhD candidate in physics, and her presentation is titled Listening to the Universe, Searching for Dark Matter Using Quantum Sensors.
When we look up at the night sky, we're only seeing a small fraction of what's really out there. The stars, planets, galaxies, dust, everything you could possibly see only makes up around 15% of the matter in our universe. The rest, we call that dark matter. We know dark matter exists because we can see what it does. It holds galaxies together and it shapes the large-scale structure of our universe. But we have no idea what it actually is. It doesn't emit light, and it doesn't interact with ordinary matter in ways we've yet been able to detect. This mystery, what makes up 85% of the matter in our universe, is what my research is helping to uncover. I work in a collaboration of scientists focused on one possible kind of dark matter, tiny, ultralight, abundant particles that would be around us all the time. But it takes the strong magnetic field of our detector to convert these particles into oscillations we can measure with an electrical circuit. We don't know what frequency these oscillations will be at, so we have to scan our detector the same way you would tune a radio to pick up a new station, by slowly sweeping through different frequencies until we uncover a faint and narrow tone hidden in the noise. In fact, this analogy to a radio is so good that we call our experiment DM radio. But it's not quite so simple. The signal we're looking for is many orders of magnitude below what ordinary electronics would be able to detect. To have a chance at all, we need to make our detector components as cold as outer space And importantly, where my work comes in, we need to read out the signal from our detector with sensors that add as little noise as possible to their measurement. To do this, I build quantum sensors. These are tiny superconducting circuit elements like those used in many quantum computers. These sensors are powerful tools. At their best, they can measure so well that the only noise they add is the minimum amount that is fundamentally required by the laws of quantum mechanics. Without these quantum sensors, the search for dark matter could take hundreds or maybe even thousands of years. But with the help of these sensors, that same search can be compressed down to a timescale much closer to a single scientific career. This gives us a real shot at potentially discovering this particle, or at least ruling out a huge chunk of its possible properties. Designing an experiment like this is not something one person could do on their own. Theorists motivate the search for these particles, telling us what parameters are interesting to chase. Cryogenic and magnet experts engineer the cold, high-field environment that houses our detector. And my lab mates over there and I, we design and build the sensors that bring it all to life. We're all working towards the same big question. What is the universe made of? We don't yet know the answer, but each time we make our detector a little less noisy, tune to a new frequency, and listen a little longer, we get closer to finally hearing the faint hum of dark matter that might finally reveal the rest of our universe. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Katie. Now, some of you may have been here last year for the first 3-minute competition, and if you were, you're going to recognize the people I want to recognize next, which is I think we may have a few of the finalists from last year's competition here. And if you're a finalist from last year's competition and you're here today, I'd love for you to stand up so we can recognize you. Fantastic. The winner of last year's competition, Favor and Reese, who may still be here and was here at the beginning of this event, went on from Stanford and represented Stanford at the Western Association of Graduate Schools, the regional 3MT competition, which actually happened earlier this month. And she made it to the final of that competition alongside 5 other competitors. So she really represented us well on the ongoing competition that is the 3-minute thesis competition. Okay, with that, we're going to go to our 8th finalist, Ziv Lautman, a PhD candidate in bioengineering, and his presentation is titled "Dr. Smartwatch: What Your Wearable Knows Can Save Your Life." So happy to hear that.
What if you knew that someone you love would gonna die in a few months and you could do something about it? I found that moment, but too late. A year ago, my friend Dave felt perfect. He was active, he was happy, and according to his last doctor visit, he could keep with his workout routine. But few months later, Dave's heart stopped. Like me, Dave loved wearables. He wore a smartwatch, a smart ring, and a fitness band every day. Since my PhD research focuses on how these wearables can early detect diseases, I just had to look at his data to understand what happened. And what I found was heartbreaking. The warning signs were already there 5 months earlier. His recovery slowed, his sleep changed, his resting heart rate was rising, even the way he walked changed. His warning signs were screaming, but doctors couldn't hear it because healthcare still works in snapshots. One appointment, one measurement, one moment in time. But our bodies are continuous stories, more like a movie recorded every second by the devices we already wear. Currently, medicine isn't designed to look at the massive data wearables produce. My research changes that. I've built an early warning AI system, helping doctors connect to your wearable data so they can see and understand your health movie and early detect diseases. This system has 3 key pillars: medical knowledge, understanding how signals like heart rate change with age and exercise; AI that can analyze hundreds of these signals and detect subtle deviations across time; and the secret sauce, personalization. If your health is a movie and you're the leading character, then the models I've built learn what normal looks like for you. Because for one person, rapid heart rate might be the norm. For you, it could be fatal. With our system, the capabilities are endless. We're already using it to early detect COVID and other infectious diseases, even look and track menopause severity and predict mental health crisis early. Dave's case taught me something important. Disease does not arrive suddenly. It whispers first. And no matter if the storm is brewing in your body or your mind, wearables can hear it coming before it is too late. Thank you.
Many people may be wondering, why have our finalists signed up for this competition? Obviously, a lot of work had to go into preparing for this. So we did ask them in advance why they submitted applications and put time into this. And they actually had very similar things to say about that first of all, that they really love the research they're doing. And they're proud of it. They're proud of the work that they're doing. And they want to share it with more people. And they also realize how important it is to learn about how to present and share ideas of what you're doing so that you can get other people as excited about your work as you are. And they wanted a challenge, which they definitely got. Okay, on to our 9th finalist, Anuj Amin, PhD candidate in religious studies. And his presentation is titled Binding Demons, Blurring Boundaries, Incantation Bowls, and Everyday Religion. So with that, come on up, Anuj.
In the centuries after Christ's crucifixion, demons sprang from the shadows, consuming humanity in a cosmic war. Manuscripts from this time reveal that these creatures caused pandemonium, stretching from the deserts of Egypt into Mesopotamia or modern-day Iraq and Iran. Across Jewish, Christian, and Zoroastrian communities, people turned toward a powerful solution: enchanted bowls. These 4th to 8th century bowls exist in the thousands and bound demons in brilliant spirals of Aramaic. Each object, made to order, tells the story of an average person's problems that we may struggle with even today. Perhaps as a lawyer, you're too shy in front of the jury, a demon stealing your confidence. Or perhaps with age, your vision has begun to decline. My work explores a single question. What do these objects reveal about the everyday religion practiced across ancient communities? Previous scholars looked at 1, 2, maybe a few bowls at a time. I looked at nearly 1,000, and I saw something striking. These objects made religious boundaries porous. Demons moved easily throughout communities, but where demons moved, the divinities with names like Jesus the physician or Raphael the protector could follow. Jewish rabbis wrote bowls invoking the healing power of Jesus Christ. These artifacts blur the lines that we usually use to separate religious traditions, reminding us that belief has always moved across boundaries, shaping the world we've inherited today. But my work doesn't stop in antiquity. In the aftermath of the Second Iraq War, these objects are still being pulled from the earth in illegal excavations. So I went to the Middle East interviewing antiquities dealers who sell on the black market. I traced an international network of stolen art, forcing me to confront the ethics of studying artifacts in a modern market built on violence. Now, today, we think of religions like Christianity and Judaism as separate. But these bowls show us that these traditions were originally inextricable. Artifacts that we once thought bound demons actually bound together entire communities. And in a world still divided by religion, these objects remind us that our boundaries are never as porous as we might have imagined.
Thank you, Anuj. All right, hopefully there's a few of you out there who are thinking about your plans for next year and entering this competition. If you are one of those people, I hope you will do it, actually, both to participate in the competition, but also to just go through the process that these folks have all gone through, and to share your research. This has been just a spectacular event. Okay, with that, we're going to bring up our last finalist, Kate Reinmuth, a PhD candidate in economics, and her presentation is titled, "Oh, the Places You May Not Go, Understanding Promotion Gaps." Come on up.
Welcome to your life.
Here's a puzzle. How to advance? Who gets promoted? Is it effort or chance? To answer that question, let's start with a simple example. A company hires a new class of employees, half men, half women, equally qualified and equally ambitious, a perfect 50-50. But as time passes and we look higher on the career ladder, that balance warps. And by the top floor, the leadership team is overwhelmingly male. People often call this a leaky pipeline, but the leak isn't random, it's a system, a set of incentives, constraints, and everyday choices that quietly steer careers in different directions. My research asks how exactly that system produces the gaps we see. To do that, I break promotion gaps into 3 pieces: policies, how companies choose whom to promote; retention, who stays long enough to be eligible; and performance, how much work employees produce. Economists have long suspected that all 3 matter, but my research is the first to analyze them together in the same setting. With new data from a large company, I can see exactly how promotions unfold in the real world, and the results are striking. First, the company's policies actually promote employees in a gender-neutral way. Second, although women do leave at higher rates, differences in retention account for less than 1/3 of the overall gap. In the end, the promotion gap is primarily driven by the 3rd factor, performance. Specifically, women are more likely to shift into reduced hours roles, and so if we look at the total amount of work produced, we see a sizable gap. But reduced hours roles also come with lower pay, and if we were to define performance more like productivity as work per dollar of compensation, that gap disappears, and women look just as productive as men. The message: performance matters, but how we measure performance matters just as much. So should companies change their performance metrics to close the gender gap? Maybe, but it's complicated. Changing one policy changes the entire system as people re-optimize. To simulate how new policies would affect everything in equilibrium, I build an economic model of career decisions and calibrate it to match the real world. With that model, I can predict what every hypothetical Kate would do if you offered her different incentives. And without these simulations, companies might implement well-intentioned policies that end up accidentally reinforcing gender gaps. All of this brings us back to the top floor. It depends on much more than who got in the door. People make choices all up the career ladder, while firms make the rules about which things will matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. We closed by making me feel very old because Kate's advisor was my advisee. So that was okay. I want to invite all of the I'd like to invite all of the finalists now to come back on the stage so we can give them one more round of applause. I'm going to bring them all out. Okay, there's one last part, which is the audience participation part, which is we're going to put a QR code up on the screen, and you get a chance to vote for the People's Choice Award. So this is your moment. Take a picture. You can submit your vote. When you're done submitting your vote, we're going to all head outside. Well, I'll give you all a minute to submit your vote. So with that, let's give one more round of applause to all the finalists.